The man
Call somebody,
is back,
tell
y'all.
somebody.
We're
He's
back.
Call
He's
your
back.
mama, call your daddy.
We're back and we're back.
We're back.
Tony McGee,
He's back, y'all.
We're back. Tony
Hey.
McGee. Come on.
Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee.
The one-of-a-kind joy of Kellogg's cereal and ice-cold milk.
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. Now, you know, I may be a little giddy right now because I'm going with some of my boys I haven't been around in a while. They went to school with me, and we get a chance to chat. They get to tell you how I was the only player on the team that had 100 touchdowns, and I played defense. I don't know how I did it, but this is an all-season show, so everything goes. But we're going to get to them probably about 15 or 20 minutes. But first, we got to go to football talking about this I almost said Redskins team. Talking about the Commanders. They made some great moves. So I also bring in a young lady that claims she played basketball. I ain't seen her hit a basket yet, but she does know her stuff. Donna, what's up?
Hey, Tony. It's a lot of things happening. And look at our guest today, JW and Mel Sugar Bear Hamilton joins us today. But like you said, we got to get
I don't have a name.
Hey, Tony, I'm with Legacies today, but you know, we gotta kind of like talk about the Commanders just a little bit because you know Art Monk, part of the posse, jersey is going to be retired this season. Darryl Green's was last year, and this organization, new management, new ownership is really doing the right thing and moving this team in the right direction. So Tony, you all know Art Monk. Talk a little bit about just them retiring his jersey, and the start of training camp is just a week away. And the key thing is, can the Commanders do what they did last year? Surprised everybody, had an outstanding year, and Terry McLaurin is still not signed yet, going into training camp. So, Tony, those are the hot topics before we get to our guest today.
Well, you know, you look at Terry McLaurin, he's already the number one receiver, but at the same time, they brought in 2 or 3 people that can replace him. Therefore, I think he should be a little bit easy with this request. I got to have this or that. Joe, you were up with the Dallas Cowboys for a while. You see the difference now in players. You know, he's holding out for millions, and we used to hold out for hundreds. It's a whole different ball game now. But I'm going to ask you this, and not from the college. We'll get to the college later. As you get a pro, and I hate to tell you fans, he was with the Dallas Cowboys. Stop! But at the same time,
make that Super Bowl win in Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, you got to throw that in there.
Just a little bit.
We let y'all have that. But Joe, as you look around the league, and you look at this Washington team, give me your thought process.
Well, of course, Dan Quinn being here at Dallas and having the opportunity to interact there with him and learn a little bit about him, I think you guys got a fantastic leader, and that sets the stage. I mean, players want to play for him, and that's the kind of coach that you want. So with that being said, these last 2 years has proven that they made a good decision in getting Quinn as being the head coach there.
Hey, also Joe Witt, who was on the defensive side. He's the defensive coordinator. Talk a little bit about, they got Dan Quinn and Joe Witt and quite a few other pieces of the old Cowboys regime.
Well, you know, you take a look at it, and I know you want Joe to give this, but I want to hit Melvin on this, because the reason I brought these 2 gentlemen in this time is one came in a year or so before me, which was Joe, and Melvin was already here. And later on in the show, we'll tell you about some things they went through. But really what I want to get from them is how the league has changed, the players changed. And Melvin, as I talked to you, and we looked at these Commanders last year, you didn't have to go far to look and see that the most thing that they were lacking was a good running game, good offensive lineman all the way across, and a good running game. it looks as if they've done this now. So when you take a look at Dallas, you take a look at Washington, which team, Washington, do you think is going to be the better team?
Are you asking me, Tony?
Yeah, I'm asking you that now.
What's going to be the better team?
I gave you the answer.
There's no doubt about it. The Commanders are going to whip ass.
I know you're going to like that, Joe. But hey,
Well, one of the things that I just have to say is that Dallas is going to be very, very competitive. They've done an excellent job in terms of retooling and getting everything set. Although Schottenheimer has not been a head coach before, but they've made some real nice moves that are there. And so we got everybody coming back, including Dak, and they've shored up that running game. Offensive line, they've shored up there. So they're just it's going to be an interesting season. I'm looking forward to it.
Come on, Joe. Come on, Joe. I got to stop you right there because Dak is coming back off of an injury, and it's been a lot of question marks around him for the last couple of years. They gave him that big contract last year. He ended up getting hurt. He's coming off an injury, and you still have that much confidence being that you got a new coach? You're that confident in this Cowboys team?
Yes, I am. And one of the reasons why that I am, Ms. Hopkins, is mainly because of the fact that Dak works like nobody else works. I mean, he has a feel at his home there that he can work out, brings everybody in, and he puts the work in from the standpoint of that. And I also think that Schottenheimer is going to be a little bit more open than McCaffrey was in terms of the way that he has things set up. So with that being said, the continuity is still the same because the same people are still there. So it's even though we got a new coach, the continuity is there. So I think that's going to be the key.
Now, Melvin, you said you feel it down. I'm going to go to you. Melvin is quite right on this. I think that the Commanders are going to improve from the simple aspect. They got 4 people within the draft to run 4.340s. They upgraded their offensive linemen. The one thing that I'm worried about with them is they really haven't replaced, and I get my words in the verbiage I'm using, they really haven't replaced those number 1 draft choice defensive linemen that they had. They got to get someone back there. Now have to be number 1 draft choice, but they got to bring some terror. Don, have you seen anything in camp that you find a person that could be that guy?
Yeah, Tony, Daron Payne, everybody was talking about what he looked like in the OTAs, and Coach Quinn talked about just what he's seen in Daron Payne. Laws got a little slimmer, and they're talking about his explosiveness off the ball, his movement. This is his contract year. You know that when he had the contract year a ways back, he came out and had an outstanding year. But I think some of the guys that they bought in during free agencies, Tony, is going to make this defense much better. Of course, they don't have that pass rusher yet, and I think that they're still trying to get that person before the season starts. But they've got to go with what they got, and it's a competition. That's the great thing about Coach Quinn is that no position is shored up. Everybody has to compete, and that, to me, makes this team much better. Joe Witt's coaching style, Tony, has helped this team also. So I look for this team to be better, not only up front. Like I said, still may not have that pass rusher, but I think that you're going to see a difference. And also in the secondary that we haven't even talked about, they're going to be much better in the secondary as far as Marshawn Lattimore. They've got him. I think he's going to be 100%. Got him at the end of last year. He was nicked up. And then Jonathan Jones, some of the other pieces that they put there in the secondary that's going to make this team, I think, a lot better, Tony.
That's very interesting.
Well, Tony, is they've got 2 preseason inter-squad scrimmage going up against the Ravens, and then the first part of August, they're going to play the New England Patriots. So we'll be able to tell a lot about this team early on in training camp.
Well, you know, fans, and I know you heard me at the beginning of this broadcast that we were going to talk football, and we are going to talk a little bit about it. And I have to let Donna go and introduce our next guest because she's I think she's in love. I don't know, but he was a pretty good player. But we will later on come back with these guys. And I want you guys to remember the Wyoming Black 14 and BYU. And the good things that we're doing this year to really help not just any people, all people. And you know, Mel, you had a slogan that you used, and I'm not jumping to the Black 14 right now, but I love that slogan. Your slogan, where did you come up with? We're going to teach the world to love.
Well, you know, Tony, once we got involved with the LDS Church, I really went through a change in my heart. It sort of softened me incredibly because we were helping those people with food insecurity, and my devotion with the LDS people, their devotion with me was incredibly felt. My heart was open. We were helping a lot of people. And as you know, we served over 100, or over 1.5 million pounds of food we gave to the food insecure folks. And so my union with the LDS Church and the Black 14 was very heartfelt, and I just got overwhelmed with love. And so the thing that came to me very strongly was that we were going to teach the world how to love.
I like that. Well, you know, before we get back to the Black 14, we're going, and I'm going to turn this over to Donna Hoskins. Donna, we interviewed Howie Long the other day, number 75, Oakland Raiders. One of the best young players we can ever see. He's become a top broadcaster this year. He saw changes throughout the league, too, but I was asking him about his team. As you remember last year, they had a guy that was really, I don't know if he was head coach material. I thought the Raiders, they had a lot of injuries, but they looked good. Now, you say, well, why is he jumping to the Raiders? In all season, I don't wear shoes when I'm doing this. So it don't matter. We do what we want. But when I take a look at this and I talk to people like Howie, and when I talk to these two gentlemen, I'm talking with you, Donna, it seems as though, and from Howie and other people, but I want you to fill me in because you're out there every week. It seems as though this whole league is changing this year.
Yeah, Tony, because I think that if you turn the pages a little bit about who were the dominant teams for the longest, you're seeing the guards change a little bit. Just up the street in Philadelphia, the Eagles have just made their team much better, and they're in the conversation again as being one of the best team, if not the best team, entering the 2025 season. And then the Commanders are on everybody's lips too, Tony, because last year towards the end of the season when the Commanders started turning the pages, and then they got this great quarterback in Jayden Daniels, it opened people's ears. And then you look up in Cincinnati with a great quarterback. And I think the reason why you're hearing a lot about the different changes in the NFL, the rule changes and all that, it's more so about the quarterbacks across the NFL. Up in Cincinnati, you got up in Kansas City, Mahomes, and you look around up in Buffalo, you've got a great quarterback. So it's the year, I think, with the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks play finally. C.J. Stroud up with the Texas. So it's the play of the quarterback, Tony, that I think that has changed the talk in the NFL. And I know everybody talks about defense, the offense, and all of that. But when have you all of you all can kind of like chime in, had in the NFL a lot of teams with great quarterbacks? We haven't seen that since some of y'all's years when you had the Terry Bradshaws and some of those players that has really led the league. So I think that's the reason why, Tony, the league has changed a little bit because of the quarterback play across the NFL.
Well, you know, I know a way we can segue this. And we're going to go with what Howie was saying, but to digress and go back to your quarterback issue. Last time they had a year like this quarterback when Dan Marino came, I remember he was number 25th, number one draft choice, and he was in the Hall of Fame. And they traded one quarterback for the other, and somebody didn't want to go here, but they had about 5 6, 7 great quarterbacks. A couple of them are still hanging around doing things. But with that being said, it's time now to go for Howie Long. You know, Howie didn't realize when we played them in the Super Bowl back in '83, he came up telling me all the good things, the bad things, and I was really angry at the time. It made me feel good. I want you to listen to this guy. We have fun with him. I know you see him on television every week, but this was one of the best players that I saw play that defensive tackle position. And Donnie, are you the one that wanted me to get Howie on? Were you impressed with everything Howie was saying? He didn't have to say nothing for you to be impressed, but were you impressed?
I was, Tony, because of his great talents on the football field and now in the broadcast booth. So, Tony, let's go to hear Howie Long on his view on the Commanders and also on his Raiders with the new coach.
Hey, it's Michelle Van Allen from Van Allen Real Estate. Listen, let me help you with whatever your real estate needs are, whether it's that commercial deal that you've been thinking about but just aren't sure, or if you're a first-time homebuyer, got some really good first-time homebuyer programs that I'd like to discuss with you. Or if you're looking to sell your property, let's discuss it. Let's make sure that you are poised in the right position that will benefit you most. I look forward to hearing from you. You can reach out to me at vanallenrealestate.com, VANALLEN realestate.com, or simply pick up the phone and give me a call, 202-642-9116, so we can discuss your real estate needs today.
Crystal City Sports Pub, located in the heart of National Landing, is ranked one of the top 20 sports bars in the country. We are open 365 days a year. Crystal City Sports Pub, with its laid-back atmosphere, is the place to be. We offer 3 levels, over 100 TVs, an 18-foot video wall, pool tables, 3 full bars featuring 11 beers on tap, an extensive menu, and super friendly staff. We offer on- and off-site catering and ample space to host private parties and gatherings. Come experience Crystal City Sports Pub. It is the place to be.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50-some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
And not only is he a great person on television, he was one of the best football players I've ever seen. And you still can remember him, Howie Long. Welcome to the show, Howie.
Always a pleasure to be with you, Tony. You're a legend, my man.
I don't know in my mind I am. I don't know where else, but you know.
No, trust me. As a young guy coming up, we've talked about this before. I'm a big fan. You do a great job. 40, how many years? 41. Wow.
Can you be? I was 12 when we started the show, so don't start counting.
I've been with Terry Bradshaw for 31 years, and some of those years are dog years. So I multiply those by 7.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I always look for the second year to be the toughest year because you've given all the coordinators and everybody chances to see your weaknesses and your strengths. What do you think about that?
I think the kid is a transitional talent. I think he's poised beyond his years. He showed that at Arizona. He showed it at LSU. And he certainly showed it last year. I thought, when you bring in Kingsbury and, all the things lined up there. And it's so rare that this happens. And, let's be frank. It was, in my mind, the Washington organization, whether it was the Redskins or, the Commanders, there was always kind of a, particularly with the Redskins organization, it was a model franchise, coaching staff, football team, fan base. There was a lot to be excited about every year. And slowly but surely that got chipped away at. And for a new owner to come in, a new GM to come in, new front office, new head coach, to be fortunate enough to be picking in the top 2. And, I don't think if, let's say, Washington had the number 1 pick last year, I don't think they would have made any choice but the choice they made. I think Adam Peters loved Jaden Daniels, and and I certainly believe your head coach loved him too, and could appreciate the issues that he presents on a down in, down out basis, both as a passer, a runner, Kingsbury's ability to be diverse offensively, tempo changes, going forward on 4th down, the kind of plays that he made at end of games, last 30 seconds, overtime. He's special. You win 2 playoff games, one in Detroit now versus Detroit. Detroit was decimated on defense, but to go there on the road in a really, really great environment in Detroit where they're excited like they are in Washington right now, I think bodes well for him. And I don't think the second year will be a challenge for him. Certainly, listen, playing quarterback in the NFL is not easy, but are you better in the offensive line? Potentially, yes. Are you better at receiver? Potentially, yes. Are you going to be better on defense, particularly in the run game and maybe as a pressure team? Yeah, I think you're going to be. So you've made improvements, you've added pieces, and this kid has a shot at not just being the best quarterback in the division. And that's saying something when you've got the kid in Philadelphia who just seems to play big in the biggest of games. And, that's certainly true, and Philadelphia is loaded. But I think, Washington wouldn't trade this. Who would you trade this kid for?
Nobody.
Right. Well, if we're being, I agree with you. That being said, there are guys out there, Mahomes, there's the guy in Cincinnati, there's the guy in Buffalo, there's some, I think we're probably deeper in terms of quality quarterbacks than we've probably ever been. I think when you and I played, it was top heavy where there was 3-4 guys and that's it. I think you can make a case for a lot of guys that are really, really quality quarterbacks, and we throw the ball more than ever. We're in sub packages 75% of the time, and that's totally foreign for you and me. We're a team. Would you typically how many downs a game would you have to play the run? Probably 40 downs. Mm-hmm. Now it's 20, 22.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Howard, you mentioned the NFC East just a little bit. You talked about the Philadelphia Eagles coming off the Super Bowl. You look at Dallas. Dak is coming back from that injury, and then up in New York, you've got Russell Wilson now. Could you kind of talk about just the NFC East, how you see that Commanders stacking up with them? Who sets themselves apart now that you've got moving parts in Dallas with that new quarterback coach, and then Russell Wilson heads up to the New York Giants?
I think the Giants are a team that's going to have to play a certain style. I don't think it's necessarily the style that the head coach / coordinator wants to play, but they've got a great wide receiver. They've got a quarterback who can manage the game. They drafted a young quarterback, and that whether that evolves over training camp and he kind of shows them something that would lend to them wanting to speed up the process. I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing mid-season, but Russell certainly is a stable guy, and I think at this point in his career, he's not as dynamic physically. I think where New York's probably going to make the biggest jump will be, I think their defensive front is really good, has a shot at being really good. They're young to a certain extent, and that you've always got to have kind of a lead guy in the room, and they have that at the defensive tackle position. But I think that team is year 2 away. Philadelphia is loaded. You talk about owner, GM, offensive line, wide receivers, running back, defensive front, linebacker, secondary, defensive coordinator. It's a lot to deal with. That being said, your quarterback is special, and he's shown the ability, and we saw it versus Philadelphia late in games. When the up tempo, no huddle, and you're dictating terms to a certain extent in terms of personnel and what coverages you can play, and is the front gassed a bit, because when you go that kind of up tempo, Tony, and if you don't get your defensive front rotating in today's game, and it's so fascinating, and I don't want to sound like Clint Eastwood and Gran Torino and yelling, "Get off my lawn," but when I played, I never left. I never left the field.
Exactly.
So you played 80 snaps, whether that was up tempo, no huddle, it was running game, it was passing game, short yardage, goal line, whatever it was, you never left the field. You start to kind of dictate terms when you've got a young quarterback who's used to going no huddle, who's used to going up tempo, who can kind of dictate terms in terms of you've got to keep the same package on the field. You're limited in the variety of coverages and defenses you can play, and you're wearing a group out as the game goes on. And that's something your guy can really do well, and he showed that last year.
Well, let me ask you this, Howard. You were a high draft choice. You were an outstanding player. You're a Hall of Fame player. What did you think when Washington had 4 defensive linemen with first-round draft choices, and they started to clean out the kitchen before the food was through cooking? Talk to me.
Okay, you're going to have to spell that out for me a little better. You missed me somewhere between, and I'm going to get over here because.
Hey, Howard, he's trying to stay a little hip.
I didn't get it.
Old people do that. In other words, they got rid of those 2 of their top defensive linemen, we thought. And you know yourself, anytime you can have 4 number ones on the front line, you want to keep them together.
Who are we talking about?
Washington.
John Allen.
Yeah. Well, listen, I trust the head coach, Dan Quinn, a lot. I really like Dan Quinn, and Adam Peters is a guy that I think has a real feel for what's going to work, and certainly I don't think any decisions are going to be made in terms of personnel. Let's be frank. The head coach is a defensive coach, and his background is his background. It's Seattle, it's Dallas, it's he's been impacted by a number of people, but I think his philosophy and his approach to what he wants, I'm sure, is very clear in those meetings when they're deciding who to let go, who not to let go. And certainly when you're talking about letting go of young, talented defensive tackles or defensive ends, you and I are kind of left scratching our heads, but I'm sure there's a method to the madness.
Hey, Howie, staying on the defense, since you and Tony love that side of the ball, Commanders, I always talk about building the team in the trenches, whether it's the offensive line. In the last 2 years, they drafted 2 offensive linemen, first rounders. Then the defense in free agency, they beefed up that in the secondary and up front a little bit, but they did not get that pass rusher that they wanted yet. With Joe Witt headed into his second year, how do you see that defense for the Commanders in Lattimore? They got late in the season from the New Orleans Saints. He should be 100% doing training, doing the OTAs this year. Talked to him a little bit. He said he's 100%. Then they brought some of the veterans on in the secondaries, but still not that pass rusher. You talked about Philadelphia, and they are loaded across the board. They've got better in their draft this year. How does the Commanders stack up defensively with the Eagles headed into 2025?
Well, I think it's going to be schematic. You have to, and this is not something. Tony and I were fortunate enough to play with some pretty good groups, and I think Greg Townsend, Sean Jones, Lyle Alzado, Bill Piquel, that's 400 sacks right there, in between the whole group. When you can do that, independent of trying to manufacture pressure, it makes you so much more diverse on the back end. That being said, I don't think you have that guy yet. I think the focal point was to try to, you're adding some veterans. You know what you're going to get. Listen, last year, great example. 3-4 guys that were 1-year guys that, you know what you're going to get. He had some experience with, Dan Quinn had some experience with some of them. And some of it, like you're going to, Bobby Wagner is a force multiplier, both from as a player and as a leader in the locker room, and setting the kind of, this is the identity of who we are, and this is the standard. Anything short of that is unacceptable. And if it doesn't head in that direction, then you'll have to deal with me individually. And he's one of those guys. That being said, I think what you looked at was, say, how do we better prepare our quarterback to be successful in year 2, as you talked about, Tony. I think the offensive line was a big key. Is Debo? The Debo, and I've covered him quite a bit when he was with San Francisco, and at his best, he's a problem. He's a problem across the middle. He's a problem. He's a great complementary piece to your number one, and your number one is in the middle of a contract thing. Hopefully that gets worked out. But I think the philosophy was, we're going to fill in the blanks on defense with 1-year, 2-year guys, and we're going to try to improve the offensive line, solidify it for the young kid at quarterback. We're going to try to add pieces at wide receiver, and we're going to try to be better overall offensively, and that helps your defense and in many ways dictates terms.
You see, that's the way I look at it, for the simple aspect that I feel like the defense will always be better if the offense is good.
Oh, in other words, so much easier to play with a lead.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to be.
Okay, Tony, if the defense could stop the run, maybe the offense could.
Oh, wait, now you don't have to get particular. They got to the playoffs.
I knew Donna was going to bring up that 30th ranked defense.
I had to. Howie.
They're waiting to throw him up under the bus anyway. But as I take a look at this team, I think, as I said, I still look at coordinators will stop them a little bit. That running game had to get stronger. That's the one part I was kind of disappointed in. It looks as if after a few injuries and everything, they didn't have a true number one. They had 3 guys that could get it done, but they need that one horse. And then defensively, you need that guy that he may not always get there, like Howie. He may not have gotten there to every sack he could have gotten, but he put so much pressure. See, it's about the whole game.
And Tony, I agree. One thing Al Davis used to say to me all the time was, don't worry about the numbers. Just be disruptive. Can you be disruptive? And that's really, I think, what we're talking about. And, guys like Myles Garrett, and, you can fill in the blank. They're just so disruptive. The guy out with the Raiders, Crosby, he's a problem. And if you don't have one of those guys during the week, where on Monday morning, the first problem that offensive coordinator for the opposing team has is, how are we going to deal with him? Because if we don't deal with him, I mean, listen, there were plays I remember, I forget where it was. I'm in a 3 technique and I come off the ball and nobody blocks me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was a screw up, but in my head, I'm thinking sucker, trap,
There
wham.
you go.
I'm looking around like I can't be unblocked. So that guy's so used to being blocked by, you've got Y on, Y off, Y motion. The guard shows you run outside. The tight end comes and ear holes you on the inside. You get a slide your way, or you get the tackle guard combination right away. You get the rare kind of running back inside chip on a defensive tackle, which they don't do a lot. They've got to do it versus the kid in Philadelphia. The kid in Philadelphia,
Carter.
He's a problem. He's a problem. Now, if there's a reason why he went where he went in the draft. And that's his issue, and he has to own that, and and I'm sure he has, and it looks like he has. I think that the significant thing was, and I'm sure you felt this way when you played with your group, when you bring a guy like that who maybe has made some choices that weren't good choices. When he walks into your room, that room is responsible for him. And he's got to be held accountable in the room. Now, his talent is immense. His play is off the charts. Can he continue to make good choices and realize his full potential? I hope he does, because I love watching him. I hope he does. But again, Tony, it's on the room, and it's on the defensive coordinator, it's on the defensive line coach. But at the bottom line is it's on the kid. Is he willing to do that? And when you have a guy like that, he's special. And I rarely do you see a guy that he makes people in today's game, which is bigger, stronger, faster. He makes them look average. It's pretty amazing. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Well, to tell you, the only thing that worries me about this team is key injuries in one or two places could really hurt this team quite a bit. I don't like to see I know he can run. I know he's a 4-3 and all that, but all it takes is one hit. Remember Randall Cunningham?
Yep.
He can do everything. Matter of fact, a lot of people don't know he was the #1 punter in the country when he came out.
RG3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These guys, so it's eventually going to happen. And he's kind of slight. And I know that's part of his game, but I would get that in something like what we used to do with a Joe Theismann. We had a dash, and you took him as well as 2 or 3 out linemen, and you rolled to the corner, and then you let him set, keep that pressure off of him. But at the same time, I'm looking at this being a good team. We got to ask you 1 or 2 more questions about your Raiders. What was the deal with the coach they got this year? Did they just want to give the young man a chance? Pierce, I remember when he was playing. He broke rules then. So I was uniform inspector. So what do you think about his job, even though he's gone now? I thought maybe they saw something I didn't know. And do you think your team has improved? Your team was doing very well, but injuries kind of hurt them pretty bad this year.
You're talking about the Raiders now.
Yeah.
It has been, it's kind of like, think about where you were 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What was your thought process with the Commanders, the Redskins 2 years ago, 3 years ago? It was like, my gosh, I want to be hopeful. I'm trying to buy in. I'm pulling for the team. I'm a Raider. I was, couldn't imagine playing anywhere else. And, it was rough for a long time. I do think this. Number one, when you bring in the GM from Tampa Bay, I think I love what Tampa Bay has done from a personnel standpoint. You try to look at history and where does an assistant GM come from, and how does that potentially work for us? It's making the right choices. It's trying to figure out, with the advice of a Pete Carroll, who's been there, done that, won Super Bowls, had great defenses and stability, run game, take pressure off the quarterback with the run game, play action pass, veteran at quarterback. I think when you're looking at a quarterback class, for example, why do you pick a Gentry at running back? Well, the kid, I don't know if you've seen this kid do some things physically playing around on the field. He runs and does backflips, front flips. I did a commercial with him. He's a great kid. He's put together, shockingly bigger than you'd think, physically, faster than you would think. I think he's going to pay dividends for that football team in the way Pete Carroll's going to want to play. Pete Carroll's going to want to run the football. He's going to want to play great defense. And Pete has a type, as you probably know, in the secondary. It's bigger, it's longer. It's kind of like that group he had in Seattle. Trying to build towards that. If the kid who came over from the Dolphins at defensive tackle can stay healthy, and I was excited about him coming over, but Max needs help. Max is, and the other thing with Max is, and I've said this to him personally, Max needs to get those snaps down from 80 snaps to like 62 snaps, 63 snaps. It's okay to get Max out of the game periodically and just give him a blow, because one surgery leads to two leads to four leads to 2. And when you're the guy, and everyone but the peanut vendor is blocking you. It's tackle, guard, tight end, running back. Everyone gets a shot. There's Max's picture, and we're going to hit him all game because he's such a great player, and you want him down the back end of the schedule. And he's had a couple of surgeries now, and he is a unique player and a unique person, and I'm very excited about him, and I think stability would be the word while you're trying to get your Jaden Daniels, because this year's quarterback group, aside from the number one guy, number two guy, was not necessarily what I think the Raiders felt was emblematic of who they wanted to be the future for the team. And, maybe next year it's the year. Maybe someone comes available via trade or free agency. But I think the quarterback situation now, he knows the quarterback, had him in Seattle. He's a stopgap measure. He'll play well if you're running the football, play action pass, all that. I think they're going to be in a lot of games and have opportunities to win. How many of those close games can you win? That's the difference between a successful season and not.
The one-of-a-kind joy of Kellogg's cereal and ice-cold milk.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50 some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Speakers Bureau offers you various opportunities to connect with former and current players along with Tony and the crew. For more information, go to redmagplus.com Speakers Bureau.
Interesting thoughts process with Howie. And one thing about it, you can understand he's genuine. No matter what, and I've been knowing that young man a long time, he's genuine. He helps out with a lot of things, charity. He put 3 sons into the NFL himself. So this is a real genuinely good guy. Now, if you want to look at genuinely good people, let's go back to the Black 14. A lot of people, when they hear me say Black 14, they feel like it's a kind of situation where we're warring and we still hating each other. And we were adversaries with the Brigham Young Church back at that time. But at the same time, our 50th year that this had transpired. And you all know the story, and if these guys want to reiterate it stuff and how it hit each other, they put us off the team for something that never happened, which was the protest. We were a very good team at that time of the year. I think we were maybe numbered 6, 7 in the country. They said if we win a couple more games, we was in a bowl. The Sugar Bowl said that. And once we went over just to speak to the coach about this situation, how we were treated on the field, how we were mistreated on the field, and he put us off the team, it changed the whole feeling throughout the whole state. Now, Joe, you were there. When I go with Mel, Mel, tell me, before that incident happened, were the people still negative towards the black football players as they were when we got there?
Well, I played, is that for me or Joe?
You.
I played BYU in 1966. That was before you came, I believe. And we didn't have any particular problems with the football team at that time. However, it was well known that they didn't like us, and they spoke our names out of our names. And so we just knew that we were a much better team, and we just played the best we could. But yeah, we knew that they didn't like us, and but I must be honest, in '66 there was no cheap shots going on at the time.
See, that's what people need.
Well, one of the things that came into play on it with BYU is that it's when we went to play there. That's what the issue was. When we played there at Provo, we couldn't even stay. We had to stay outside the city and drive into Provo on the buses to play the game because they wasn't. Then after the game was over with, they turned on the sprinklers, wash off all that evil. Those were the things that we were protesting, from that standpoint that was there. We always beat them, so it wasn't a big deal there. So, but that was one of the issues that was there.
But Joe, it had to be pretty hard for you at that time. You were really in your senior year. You knew you were going to get in the league with some team, and you had to make a hard decision. A lot of people did at that time, even though it has manifested into it turned out to be good decisions for a lot of us. It didn't for some. How were you feeling when you went over there? And I think he called you in the night before.
Actually, not to cut you off, but I actually went in. To talk to him about what we were going to do.
Wyoming calling me right now. But tell me, you had to be torn.
Well, it was going to be a difficult situation. I had been told that I would probably be a second, third, or fourth round draft pick. They didn't expect me to go any lower than the fourth round. So, at that time, it wasn't $1 million contracts like they have now. But, it was a very difficult decision. But also the brotherhood, though, what we were fighting for, what we were trying to do, that also meant something, too. And the Black 14 were all young men of integrity, and we all hung together to do some things. The funny thing about this whole thing is that prior to the Black 14 incident, Eaton was fine. The city was fine. They looked up to the players. They were there on that corner. And to be honest with you, we were really surprised the way he came across when we went to meet with him. At least I was.
I was not surprised at all about what he did. Obviously, I dealt with Eaton way before you guys got there. And Eaton was a snake from the beginning. We just didn't know how big of a snake he was. But I went into the military because of Lloyd Eaton. He took my scholarship away because I was dating a white girl that he did not like. And when the athletic director talked to me about getting marriage student housing, Eaton refused, even his boss, the athletic director, Eaton refused to sign the papers for me to get marriage student housing because I was dating a white woman and he did not like it. That caused me to be very angry, drop out of school, and went to the military. So I knew what kind of a snake he was. So don't tell me that that man was great. He was not.
Let me ask you this, Mel, and I'd like the reason I'm bombarding you with this question because I want the fans to know. Yes, right now we're speaking to you about a lot of things that happened over 50 years ago. Now we speak to you today on positive stuff that's being done. And the one thing that I just think that we should mention once again is our food drive. How you, and the one thing about y'all don't know about Mel, he's acting like he was just a player and stuff. He's been the mayor of the city before. I tell you, all the Black 14, Joe Williams is the CEO of his own company. We had John Griffin, who was real high up in the airlines. We've had people all over. Gilmore was one of the first people that helped. When I remember he told me we got a new car called the Lexus. So what I'm trying to tell you, the Black 14 didn't let them define you. When you came up and very quickly tell me, you have been the one that enabled us to give this 1.5 million tons of food. How did you pull that off?
Well, I thought about our relationship with the LDS Church, and I wanted people to know that the Black 14 didn't hate the religion. We hate a policy within that religion. And so I wondered, I've got to let people know that we did not hate a religion. So I said, I'm going to ask them to help us feed the poor in Wilmington, North Carolina, where I grew up. And because I was in Wilmington and I heard a radio announcement from a well-known radio personality in Wilmington asking for help with giving food to the poor people in Wilmington. And I thought, well, my goodness, I'm going to see if the Mormons can help us in this regard, because they do have a reputation for helping people with food. So I called the church and they said, well, what do you have in mind? I said, I want to help the people in Wilmington, North Carolina. And they said, write us a proposal, which I did. And honestly, I was surprised when they called back and said, we are going to give you 37 semi-truckloads of food for the Black 14. And that was the beginning of over 1.5 million pounds of food given to the people that needed it. And that's how it all started.
Now, Joe, and as you went into it and became CEO of your own company, have you ever gotten help from the University of Wyoming? Have they approached you? Because you were a captain.
The only thing that they finally did was to send the apology letter, which you guys are all aware of. And when they invited us back, from that standpoint, and they kind of acknowledged all the things that Eden had done that was wrong, from that standpoint. And just as a side note, Mel, you said something today that after all these years I didn't know about what Eden did to you in terms of your marriage situation and the situation that's there. So there were a lot of things that he did that we weren't aware of that came out as a result of that. Mm-hmm. But getting back to your point, AE, no, I hadn't had anything from the university, from the standpoint of that, or other than just the apology letter.
Hey, Tony, I know that we got a lot more to hear from these guys, but we're out of time, Tony.
Well, we're gonna have to bring them back here. You know,
Definitely. Will y'all come back to finish this up?
Oh yeah, I would love to.
Blame it on Howie Long being the good guy he is, and Donna Hopkins get him in the bar.
And we definitely want to get you on our podcast too. So either way it goes, we got to hear more from you.
And you know, guys, thank you guys for coming on. And you fans, look up our website. Give us some help because we're giving out 37 more trucks. Now, we may not have the help we had before, but we need the help from the world. And one thing about it, just as Mel said, we're teaching the world how to love. That's what's important to us. Not what good football players we were, what did not transpire. What is transpiring is how do we leave our legacy and what is our legacy good for? So when I say that, I say thanks Melvin and thanks Joe for being on the show. Thanks Howie, Madonna. We never say goodbye. We say
until that time.
In the minutes.
Okay, y'all hear me?